Welcome to New Jersey Politics with Laura Jones. I am Laura Jones, and we're so glad to have you here. Coming up today, we're going to be talking about the speech Governor Phil Murphy gave earlier this month, talking about his vision for 2024 in the State of the State address. He talked about a lot of issues, from making the state more affordable to investing in artificial intelligence. Democrats were generally supportive of the governor, but not all Republicans agreed with Phil Murphy's priorities. State Senator Anthony Bucco is standing by. He's the minority leader and will join us with his reaction. Also today, we have a special guest. It's someone I met just walking through the State House. Now, he's not a lawmaker, but he's got a message that got the attention of those in Trenton and even the First Lady, Tammy Murphy. David Nathan tragically lost his 19-year-old son to an accidental fentanyl overdose, and we're going to share his story. First, though, we go to the governor's State of the State, where he discussed issues from the cost of living in New Jersey to raising minimum wage while lowering the voting age, reducing medical debt, adding more affordable housing, and protecting a woman's right to choose, as well as investing in artificial intelligence and so much more.
We live in a world rocked by two full-on wars, a surge in hate crimes, inflation, high interest rates, the aftermath of a pandemic, and the tail end of supply chain disruptions. And in the face of these challenges, building a stronger, fairer, more resilient, and more inclusive New Jersey has never been more necessary. So here is our task today: to meet these hard times by working even harder, to make life more affordable for more families.
State Senator Anthony Bucco is the Republican leader in the upper house. He represents the 25th Legislative District, which includes parts of Morris and Passaic counties. Senator Anthony Bucco, welcome. Let's first talk a little bit about the governor's speech and get your reaction.
Sure. Listen, the governor was very optimistic in his speech. He spoke about things that I think are important. He spoke about making New Jersey more affordable. He spoke about access to health care. About bridging this learning loss that we've seen as a result of the pandemic. He spoke about a whole host of things: crime, keeping our families safe. I mean, certainly that's important to all of us and to our residents. The devil will be in the details. And also we have to recognize that all of those priorities, all of those policy priorities that he spoke about cost money. So I think we'll probably learn about how we're going to pay for those things in his budget address. So we'll see. We'll see what develops. I'm a little concerned because, as you know, the budget appears to be falling a little bit behind. Our revenues are lower than what has been projected. We don't have access to all of that pandemic funding that we've had in the past. So we may be heading to a point where we have to start tightening our belts, and that's going to make it difficult for these priorities.
Yeah. Well, the budget address, that is the vision for the state, and where the rubber meets the road, as you mentioned, that's the budget address that usually comes about 6 weeks or so after the State of the State. But I did want to talk about some of the other priorities that the governor talked about that I got some reaction from your fellow lawmakers, especially when he was talking about investment in artificial intelligence. People seemed very intrigued by that and by all of the business development along that Route 1 corridor and really tapping into New Jersey's research and development. One of your colleagues, Senator John Bramnick, I was talking to him, and he said, well, that's all well and good, but right now, people can't pay to stay in their homes. They're really struggling for the day-to-day. So what did you think about some of these other initiatives he's putting out there, and as far as how do you really prioritize what is affecting everyday New Jerseyans every day?
Yeah. Listen, I think the most important issue to New Jerseyans right now is affordability. How do we make the state more affordable? So, like I said earlier, there's a lot of lofty goals and policies that the governor spoke about, but, we have to be able to fund them, and we can't do that at the expense of programs that are keeping people in their homes and that are, trying to lower taxes and a whole host of other things. So, like I said earlier, I think that these priorities are on the tops of everybody's minds. But I think the very most important issue, and the legislature needs to get a handle on it, is how do we keep New Jersey more affordable? We've seen some troubling things occurring in New Jersey. We have the highest in the country outward migration, right? The highest in the nation property taxes. All of those things, learning loss, all of those things have a direct impact on people's lives. So while we need to look to the future, I think we got to make sure we're taking care of our folks at home. Is our first, got to be our first priority.
Now, Democrats have control of both the Senate and Assembly, obviously the governor's office. So when it comes to these next few weeks and we start hearing more about the budget and then you really start rolling your sleeves up and diving into that, what are some of the things that the Republican caucus is talking about, possible solutions, other alternatives? Because again, right now, we just have the vision, which again seems all well and good, addressing some of these perennial issues. So are there some other alternatives that you're talking about and you really want to make sure your voice is heard on?
Well, look, I've been arguing for years about indexing our tax brackets to inflation. That would have a direct impact on our low and moderate income residents, where it'll give them a break on their taxes, as a result of this crazy inflation that we've seen, over the last year or so. So that's one area, potentially getting the charitable deduction here in New Jersey, would help some of those not-for-profit agencies that are boosting some of our residents when they need the help. It can't always be the state's resources. We've got to make sure that those other agencies that are out there to protect our residents when they stumble a little bit, are able to survive. And it's become a very difficult situation here.
And what about business owners, particularly some of the small business owners? I believe I heard a mention of corporate business tax. That did not get a lot of applause. What are you hoping will be done or is prioritized? Because so many employers in the state, they are small businesses. Yes, we have some huge companies based here in New Jersey. I mean, there's a reason Trenton makes the world takes. But for those small business owners and, maybe even working with the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they're worried. I think that, a surcharge, another corporate business tax surcharge, could really be devastating to our business community. We have the highest, taxes in the country. So, we can't keep funding things by increasing taxes and fees because, if you talk about affordability, then, you can't add taxes to folks' pocketbook, additional taxes, and expect New Jersey to be more affordable. You can't fund these other things by additional taxes. There's going to have to be some cuts in the budget in certain areas, where we have essentially squandered opportunities here in the past. Last year, the budget ended up being $1 billion more than what the governor proposed. You can't have those types of aggressive spending policies and expect in New Jersey to be more affordable. It just doesn't make sense.
Right, and so the viewers also understand New Jersey has a constitutional requirement that the budget must be balanced in order to pass. So if there are programs out there that are going to be funded, it could come at a cost of other services. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, like I said, the devil will be in the details as to how the governor proposes to fund these initiatives. But I certainly think that the Republican Party will put the brakes on any talk about raising taxes or making it more difficult for our residents to make ends meet in order to do these additional things. You can't just keep going back to the well and asking for more and more and more, and for people to do more with less. You get to a point where you hit the fiscal wall.
The governor also talked about raising the minimum wage and also lowering the voting age to 17, and I think that might have already passed.
He signed that, yes.
Right,
he just signed that the other day.
But then he talked a little bit about allowing 16-year-olds to vote in school board elections. So I was curious if you had a reaction to that.
Well, I'm a little bit concerned about lowering the voting age to 16 for school board elections. even lowering it to 17 when the person is going to be 18 at the time of the general election to allow them to vote in the primary. You know, the right to vote is comes with a maturity level, and kids all develop at different stages. So I think we have to be real careful about continuing to lower the age to give somebody the right to vote, because they have to be responsible stewards of that right. And I think it worries me.
You know what struck me, Senator, is when he was talking about, and it sounds great, to engage young people, get them involved in the process. But then I started to think, wow, 16-year-olds voting in a school board election. You can't drive until you're 17, and I can't even go to the motor vehicles and do it myself. You have to go through a driving school. So all the steps you have to go through as a teenage driver. But then you're talking about letting 16-year-olds vote. And that just kind of set off, it made me pause for thought.
I think so, and I think everybody kind of sat back. Look, we want to give our youngsters the most opportunities that they can have in life. But we have to be measured in the way in which we do it. And I think, this caused a lot of people to pause when he made this proposal, and also when that legislation was posted, to allow 17-year-olds to vote if they're going to turn 18, by the time of the general election. I think that's a little bit different than it is with the 16-year-olds at school board elections, but it does. It's given everybody this, this little bit of uneasiness as to how far are we going to push this envelope.
Right. One other thing I wanted to talk about, in addition to the governor's state of the state, that was the day that the Senate and Assembly, they met to reorganize, swear in new members. It was the start of the 221st legislative session. And I was there in the Assembly chambers where the Senate was sworn in. And there were a lot of new members, nearly a quarter, 31 new members at both houses. And we saw a lot of younger faces, a lot of people with young children. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on some of the new members that you're welcoming in and how you hope this new session will start. Because again, the first of the year, people do try to, there doesn't seem to be as much bipartisanship, or there seems to be more bipartisanship and not as much fighting. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on the new start of this 221st legislative session.
I think it's great. New faces bring new ideas, bring new perspectives. So, I think it's great when we have some changeover in the legislature, and it's not the same folks with the same ideas year after year after year. And I think that, look, we are going to strive to have a bipartisan response in the Senate. I've spoken to Senator Scutari. We're friends. We worked well together during lame duck. And I told him that we're here to try to help, to try to bring some balance to the agenda, and I think he accepts that. So we'll see how we roll out, but certainly the 10 new members in the Senate, we lost a lot of veteran senators that have been there for years, that had a lot of institutional knowledge, but sometimes a little change is good.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing former Governor Senator Dick Cody in the front. I mean, he's the longest serving lawmaker, 50 years retired, and then seeing him not in his regular seat in the legislature, but up there with the former governors. What service that he gave, again, on the other side of the aisle. But it was good to see him and starting his retired life.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, I said it on the floor when we spoke, and I spoke about his service to the state. I mean, just courage. He was never afraid to step outside the box, and he did it, and he was successful.
Well, Senator Bucco, we thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us on the state of the state and also the new legislative session. Thank you so much for your time. It's good seeing you.
Thank you. It's always great to be here.
As a political reporter, I've spent a lot of time in Trenton covering the legislature and governor. In addition to lawmakers, the hallways are also filled with lobbyists and special interest groups, tourists. On occasion, you run into somebody whose story stops you in your tracks. And that is what happened when I met our next guest, David Nathan. David Nathan, I'm so happy to welcome to New Jersey Politics. David, it is good to see you.
Hi, Laura. Thank you for having us, or me.
Yes, absolutely. Well, to fill the audience in, I was on my way out of the State House after what I thought was a really long day, and you were walking in to meet with the First Lady, Tammy Murphy. Didn't know why you were meeting with her until we started talking, and you started talking about how you lost your 19-year-old son, Jack, to an accidental fentanyl poisoning, and there's a lot more to the story. So, David, can you, first of all, tell me a little bit about Jack?
Yeah, first of all, again, thank you for having me today. I truly appreciate it. Jack was, we grew up, he grew up in Livingston, New Jersey, and like most kids do his age, he played sports. He was very, focused on his friends and doing all these great things. He was an incredible kid, a serial entrepreneur, did everything and was loved by everybody. And the one thing, though, he did hate was authority. So it's funny and ironic that I'm on your show today. He went to school, University of Denver. And like most kids his age, he suffered from, his own anxiety and depression, and nothing that was like crippling, but more of his anxiety, which was the issue. And he said to me, he always lived in this gray space, right? This space where he didn't really know, if he was happy, he was sad, he was angry, he was mad, whatever. His sophomore year in college, he started creating a clothing line, and started selling it out of his dorm room. He got to this space where he was literally sold out of every piece of clothing, and every one of his friends was like, you need to be doing this. Your designs are amazing. COVID hit. He came home, locked himself in a basement for about 3 months or 2 months, came home in March. And in the middle of probably April, he came upstairs and was like, I got it. And when Jack was a little baby, he always was very happy and smiley, and everybody used to call him Happy Jack. So he took that name and he started a company called Happy Jack. And this company was specifically focused on the mental health of kids his age, and focusing on the fact that some of them didn't have the voice or were afraid to use it. And so he wanted to be that platform where people could, he could speak for them or help them, educate them. So he started a company called Happy Jack, which again was a clothing and art company focused on the support of mental health for his peers. He wanted to create this community for the misunderstood, if you will, right? Started the company in June, and again, found all his resources. I've been in the music industry for over 30 years, and he wanted no help, no connections for me. If he made mistakes, he wanted to, make them himself and learn from them. Again, launched a company, found a foundation called Child Mind Institute, which focuses on kids who suffer from any type of mental health issue. And he launched a company on June 7th. His first $1,000 he made, which was ironically within like an hour, he donated to Child Mind Institute, and he went on his way. And July 2nd, went down to a party in southern part of New Jersey, and late at night took what he thought was a Percocet, and it was laced with fentanyl. Jack went to sleep that night around 3 o'clock, I think they said, and he never woke up. And I always say, when you get that call and that hits you, you have two options in your life as a parent. And one of them, is to go that way and put yourself in the ground with your child. And the other is to try and figure out a way to rally and to go on in life. And my ex-wife, Jack's mom, Brady, and I figured that we needed to do the right thing, which was continue Jack's vision, mission, and message. And that was to keep Happy Jack alive. So we have now since run that company. We have 14,000 Instagram followers, 24,000 TikTok followers. We have stayed on path with focusing on the mental health side of things. And we have donated close to $200,000 now to all different foundations and charities inside that mental health space. We've done collaborations with Lady Gaga's foundation Born This Way, with Selena Gomez's Rare Beauty, with Kenneth Cole. We just did a huge launch. We're actually going to launch a second line of Kenneth Cole merchandise. And we've done a lot of other things. We were a sponsor of the Enrique Iglesias Pitbull and Ricky Martin tour with bracelets that I actually have right here. And we've done a bunch of other things. And we're just constantly thinking about how to educate, inform, and assist in any way we can in the mental health space.
Yeah, and the thing with mental health issues is it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't confine itself to any one person income bracket, socioeconomic. It is across the board. And here his own company foundation was focusing on that. And now you hear a lot of lawmakers talking about we've got to put more resources into mental health. We've got to close that education gap. And you actually were able to take your message to Trenton. Do you feel like that you are being heard by the people who need to hear this the most?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, funny that that's where we met. Yeah, I mean, we sat with the First Lady Tammy Murphy, and we had an incredible meeting with her and her entire team and her cabinet. And we're trying to put a big event together at MetLife Stadium for this summer. That's going to fall on Fentanyl Awareness Day. They made July 14th National Fentanyl or New Jersey Fentanyl Awareness Day. And so we sat there and discussed, how the government can be involved, what they can do, what they're not doing, and how we can really assist in this, because it doesn't take just politics. Like you said earlier, it's personal. And, fentanyl on top of all these other drugs, they don't know race, religion, sexuality, financial situation. It doesn't care. And, I've also been having conversations with Senator Cory Booker, about trying to figure out, ways on a national level where New Jersey can step in and help. And we're having some inroads there too, which is good. And I think I've never gotten into the politics of it, but unfortunately, I think you need to. And I think, even just with what happened, I don't know if you saw with what happened with the artist Jelly Roll this past week on Capitol Hill. And he is, he's a self-proclaimed drug dealer, right? Who's been dealing with this, has lost tons and tons of friends, and so eloquently spoke about what fentanyl is doing to this young generation. And it's not just drug dealers that are overdosing or dying from this. It's kids 13, 14, 15 years old, that are having these issues, and because you don't know what it's in anymore.
And that is what is so disturbing, is young people are so stressed. They've been isolated. They're dealing with issues that you and I didn't have to deal with every generation has something, but they're living out lives on social media, comparing themselves. There's so much stress, and they want something to take the edge off. They might be afraid because of the stigma to go to their parents, or even the medical profession. It's difficult to get the resources that you need, because you don't necessarily want to hear, take a pill, this will fix it, right? You want to get to what is the underlying issue? How do you get to that issue and really seriously affect change? What are your thoughts on that, and trying to get to the root cause of these mental health issues, and it's putting so many young people, people of all ages, in crisis?
Yeah, I have a 20-year-old daughter who I literally just sent off today to Australia to study abroad for 5 months. And this morning she woke up, and the first thing she said to me is like, "I'm having a panic attack. Like we got to get to the airport. Did I pack everything? I'm going to a foreign country." She's going to 2 other places before she goes to Australia. And, I look at it as a parent, and I'm like, "What do you mean? This is the best, opportunity of your life. Like, be excited." And she's like, "Dad, I'm extremely excited. I'm just freaking out because I have no idea what to expect." And, Listen, I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, and everybody deals with their anxiety, their depression, their stress differently. And, all we're ever saying is, have a conversation about it, right? If it's not with your parents, have it with your therapist. If it's not with your therapist, have it with your friends. If it's not with your friends, have it with your teacher. If it's not your teacher, like there's other ways and options to have conversation. And I'm not saying that conversation will always help you through something, but it's the best vehicle to allow you to at least try. And it is scary. The kids today, they're on, they're on video games more than they're outside playing. This past week when it snowed, my stepson was sitting in the house, he's bored, and I'm like, go outside. Like, well, I went outside, you went outside, and
Yeah.
again, it's before you take something, do some research on it, pay attention to what you're doing, and where it's coming from, how you're taking it. If you are going to take it, listen, like I said, my daughter's 20 years old, she's going to do what she wants to do anyway. I just have to try and be that pillar of strength for her, and have the ability to communicate. That's all.
Yeah, and your family's so lucky to have you. Not everybody has a supportive family. So in this final few moments here, can you tell us a little bit more about where people can find out more about Happy Jack and what it is you do, where they can find you? Give us your pitch.
Yeah, well, you can definitely find us at happyjackworld.com.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for taking the time to talk to us today. And again, I'm so
You
sorry
you are so
for the
welcome.
loss of your son, Jack. We're so sorry.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and
Thank
I
you.
hope this helps some people.
Yes, yes. David, thank you. And that will do it for today. I'm Laura Jones. Thank you so much for joining us here on New Jersey Politics. We look forward to seeing you back here next time.